Hello, all of you gamers, professional and casual out there in the world. I am MegaAmpster. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you did, if you're new here, great to have you here. Welcome to the channel. If you are a returning viewer, hey, always great to see you here. Hope you enjoyed the video. I just wanted to make a quick little video, hopefully quick. We'll see how long this goes on for. Usually they go on way longer than I expect them to. Wanted to make a quick video just talking about the state of the Metroid franchise. Currently, as of right now, this is February of 2023. I almost said 22. It's not. Keep forgetting that. But Metroid Prime Remastered just released digitally just about a week ago. It's coming out in physical in a week from now. I'm personally waiting for the physical, so I have not checked out Remastered yet. I'm very much looking forward to it, though. It's really hard not to hold out. But I just want to reflect on where we are now and like where Metroid has been previously and where we could see it go in the future. Because I think Metroid right now is in probably one of the best spots it's ever been in since like the old Nintendo days, like back like Super Nintendo, NES, Game Boy era. I think this is and I guess Game Boy Advance you could argue around that time. This is the best, Metroid is in the best state it's ever been in since like the last 20 years. Like this is the best state it's been in, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what comes out in the future. I say that because, you know, NES, we had the original Metroid, we had Metroid 2 on Game Boy, Super, of course, on Super Nintendo, and then a little bit of a lull, you know, no Metroid games in N64, and then came Prime, of course, revolutionizing Metroid into the 3D perspective, and honestly, I would argue revolutionizing third-person shooters, too. I really think it had some influence on that. You know, I look at a game like Doom and Doom Eternal, like the newer Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and like there's a lot of Metroid Prime DNA, especially in Eternal, that I could just see. I don't play a ton of other first-person shooters, but I'm sure there's some in there as well. And of course, we also had Fusion and Zero Mission, the remake of one on Game Boy Advance. Dread was supposed to come out on DS originally, and we just finally got that a couple years ago, not even a couple years ago as of this recording. But there was a bit of a lull there for a while. You know, we had I guess it was Prime Hunters and Pinball on DS. But then there was Other M, which wasn't received super well on the Wii. And then, of course, like especially after Other M, just Metroid, man, like really tanked. We had 3 Prime games that were all really, really good. All 3 games are great. But then Other M didn't do so well. And then, like, from there, I don't even know what happened. It was dormant for a while. They had Metroid... Metroid Prime Federation Force on 3DS. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. Metroid Prime Federation Force looked like one of those games that Nintendo saw and was like, you know what? It was probably something original beforehand. They're like, let's just slap the Metroid Prime name on this. Because originally it was announced at E3 2014 or 15 as Blast Ball, which ended up being a side minigame in Metroid Prime Federation Force. Like, it was very strange how they handled that game. I've actually heard it's kind of fun. If you take it in its own regard and not compare it to like other Metroid games, and not almost like if you don't count it as a Metroid game, it's honestly pretty fun in its own right, which is really weird to think about. I have not played it myself, so I cannot state my opinions on the fact, but that is at least what I have heard from the grapevine. Now, fast forward a year or two, maybe? I'm trying to remember. 2017, Metroid Prime 4 gets announced, and man, that was absolutely out of nowhere. 10 years, I think, right? Let me double check this release date, actually. Metroid Prime 3 was 2007, right? Yes, so like just about 10 years after Metroid Prime 3 was released, we got an announcement, no details about Metroid Prime 4. All we knew is that it was in development for the Switch and everything was great. And not only that, but during like I think it was the first thing they showed off at the Nintendo Treehouse right after the Digital Direct was Samus Returns, the remake of Metroid 2 for 3DS. It was great to see that done by Mercury Steam, and they didn't even announce it during the Direct itself, which was absolutely bizarre. They just showed it off with the gameplay and everything, and it dropped like a few months after that. And honestly, Metroid 2 Samus Returns, I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, the definitive way to play that game. It's much more, because Metroid 2, the original on Game Boy, is, now you can play it on NSO, actually, if you're curious. It is a lot different. Out of all the 2D Metroids, the mainline 2D Metroids, it is the most different, based on the structure. And they kept that structure in Samus Returns as well, but they also like brought obviously the visuals, but they brought modern controls in and made it feel a lot more in line with like Super and Fusion, which was great to see. And Zero Mission. So that was great to see that they were able to do that. I think that game needed a remake, and I think Mercury Steam did a great job. And of course, they came back 4 years later with Metroid Dread, one of my favorite games of all time, my favorite Switch game. It is such a good game, Metroid Dread. What a follow-up, and hopefully there's been reports about, you know, Mercury, or I don't know about Mercury specifically, but more 2D Metroids on the way, which, yes, I would love. Keep continuing the timeline after Dread. If it keeps on going, continue it somehow. Or, you know, fill in gaps, whatever you want to do. Remakes could be cool. I'm also just like, I don't know if a lot of those games need to be remade. If anything, maybe Fusion. I don't think they'll touch Super. Super is like in its own tier. It's not my favorite, but it's regarded as like an all-time amazing game. You know, so unfortunately, the main issue has been the lack of Prime 4 news. They mentioned it here and there. They restarted development. Supposedly, Bandai Namco was working on it before. They didn't like what they saw. They restarted. They brought Retro back on. And man, I am more excited than ever for Prime 4 because of Metroid Prime Remastered. This was rumored for years. And then finally, just out of nowhere, showed up during the February 2023 Nintendo Direct. Just dropped. Shadow dropped digitally, physically in a couple weeks, like out of absolute nowhere. You could tell they were sitting on this game for such a long time. And it has gotten me hyped again for Prime 4. Because before this, it was like, oh yeah, Prime 4 is coming eventually. This is the kickstart of the marketing cycle to the release of Metroid Prime 4, and that's great to see. It is still, people say this is one of the greatest games of all time, and clearly from what I've seen, based on the opinions of this remaster, it's like almost like a new standard for remasters, because it looks like a remake. It really is just the underlying code of the original game, but obviously polished up textures, lighting, all of that. Animations even, and like it's awesome to see. It is, at first I was like, you know, if the rumors were saying it's just, you know, it's kind of like the Prime trilogy, they're just gonna make it HD and bring it, like I don't know if I'm gonna buy it, but they redid a lot of the visual stuff, the visual elements, and honestly it looks amazing. So I have it pre-ordered, so I'm waiting for the physical version to come in before I can play it, but waiting very very impatiently, I will say that. But it's just Prime, sorry, not Prime 4 specifically, just Metroid in general has, in the last like 5 years, honestly, on the Switch, honestly, I mean, honestly, I feel like it kind of started with Samus Returns on 3DS. It's like, it's a renaissance of Metroid. And just to prove that fact even more, that it's such a big deal now, Nintendo very recently, shortly after they announced and dropped Metroid Prime Remastered, they launched a whole site for the Metroid franchise to get people who maybe might not be familiar with the Metroid games kind of caught up on some of this. So obviously, you know, highlighting the Metroid Prime Remaster here is that the one that just came out. And of course, it looks amazing. Oh, Samus's model here, dude. So good. So good. And of course, you know, Metroid Dread was the most recent new game that came out. And then, you know, having all these games in NSO. We have the original Metroid on the NES service. We have Metroid 2 on Game Boy. We have Super on the Super Nintendo. They've confirmed Metroid Fusion on the GBA. I feel like it's almost inevitable that Zero Mission will show up on the GBA. If you can play that version, because that game's great. More games featuring Samus, Super Smash Brothers. I love that. And obviously, this is only for the Nintendo Switch. They're not going to highlight any of the other ones. But it's just, it's great to see that they're compiling everything here. Like all of the games here, they are compiling together. And it's great to see because I think it feels like Nintendo's trying to build Metroid up to be another one of their, like, even just B-tier franchises. You know, possibly even A-tier. Is it going to be in the level of Mario or Zelda? No, of course not. But, like, it could be like Kirby levels. I think they're bringing it back up, and it's so good to see. As someone who got into Metroid, like, I mean, I guess it's only been like 10 years since I've gotten into a lot of Nintendo IPs, to be honest. It's great to see. Before the downfall, I kind of got into Metroid right before, like, the massive dip. Maybe, I guess, during, depending on how you look at it, like, with the Other M and everything. But, it's so cool to see that they're really highlighting it again, you know? Like, yeah, they announced Prime 4 way too early, but we have Metroid Dread that came out, and, oh, I love that game. Prime Remastered is out now to get people introduced to the newer generation, to be introduced to the Prime series. The main question I still have is if they will do anything with Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I think they will, but, and I know I've talked about this and people have, like, argued with me and stuff. Honestly, I debate about whether it's going to be on the level of this remaster with the original Metroid Prime. I don't know if they're going to give it the same treatment. There were originally rumors that Prime Trilogy was coming, and then some of the rumors stated, like, oh, we're going to get 2 and 3, but it's not going to be on the same level as 1, or like they are. I don't know. Personally, I'm leaning towards, like, those might be more just, like, straight ports of the original games. you know, maybe more like the Prime Trilogy versions with more HD, but I don't know if they're going to go the full length of the original Metroid Prime, because Nintendo knows how beloved the original especially is, and all three games are great, do not get me wrong, I love all three games, um, but I don't know if they're going to go, I would love them to, it would be great if they did, but I don't know if they're going to put all that effort in, especially because Retro is working on Prime 4. Now, there have been kind of rumblings that maybe Retro isn't doing like the cleanup, the remasters for Prime 2 and 3. They might be outsourcing it to a studio such as like Iron Galaxy, which I think they helped with this version. So that's a possibility too. You know, kind of like we said, we saw Ilka doing the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, while Game Freak worked on like the mainline Pokemon games, between, you know, the Legends and Scarlet and Violet. So it's possible that these kind of get outsourced to a different company, and that's totally doable, honestly. But I still don't know if it's going to be on the level of this remaster. I don't know if it's going to be on that level. Especially, it all really depends on when they drop Prime 4, because I would assume, and maybe this is generalizing too much, but I would assume that they would want to release Metroid Prime 2 and 3 before Prime 4 gets released. Now, I don't know. I still feel like Metroid Prime 4 is next year, but then again, I hear some people saying, well, could it be holiday this year? I think it could be holiday this year if they just do ports of Prime 2 and 3. Like, drop them, like, this summer and not, like, give them the full remaster treatment. Like I said, I would love to see the full remaster treatment for those games, because all three games are great, you know? It's not like just the first one should get, like, special treatment compared to the other two, but I'm also kind of like, that could be kind of a Nintendo move, and maybe that's why they're not doing a trilogy of the games. Maybe it's just, like, do the one great looking remaster with the original and then just drop the other two on the eShop as like HD ports of the Prime Trilogy versions, you know? I don't want that to happen. I'm just trying to think realistically, but especially if Prime 4 does end up being the holiday game this year, then I could see that happening. We'll know, I'm sure we'll know by summer, you know? If we don't hear about it until then Prime 4 is probably next year. There's also been like discussions about, oh, could Prime 4 maybe be a cross-gen title? Kind of like Zelda Breath of the Wild was for both the Wii U and the Switch. Maybe. That'd be... Dude, if Nintendo launched a new model of the Switch with Dread, if they go the full mile and launch Prime 4 with the next-gen system, that would be mind-blowing. That would be awesome, but I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to bank on Metroid like that. But then again, you know, Tears of the Kingdom is not releasing on the next-gen system as of this moment, so it's like, well... They could. I mean, what else would they do? I guess a 3D Mario, maybe? What else would they launch with it? So it's totally possible Prime 4 ends up being that one of those, the big launch game for the next-gen Switch. I don't know. It's really all up in the air. I'm just throwing out these ideas for, you know, speculation purposes to see what all of you think. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think Prime 4 is going to be cross-gen? Do you think it's only going to be, you think it's going to be exclusive? You think we're going to have to wait even longer? It's going to be exclusive to the next-gen Switch? You know what I mean? I don't know what to expect. And then the real question is, that I have for all of you, what do you think they're going to do with Prime 2 and 3? You know, are they going to be HD ports? Are they going to be remasters on the level of this Metroid Prime Remaster? Let me know what your thoughts are on that. And just to sum up, like, I love Metroid. I love the atmosphere. The music can be really good. The boss fights are great. And just the sense of collecting and upgrading and powering up is, honestly, Metroid still does it, arguably the best out of a lot of series. I guess not including some indie games, because indie games do very well too, like Ori the Will of the Wisps, phenomenal game. But in terms of like the main ones, Metroid, it still has that staying power in today's day and age, and I think it's great to see Nintendo really, it feels like they're really promoting it for the first time in a long time, between starting with Samus Returns, bringing it back to Dread, and then this one. It's just, I mean, Dread's the absolute wow factor. Like this, I don't want to say this is expected. It was rumored for a while, but like it's great to see them finally bringing it back to the modern day and age, especially with Prime 4. We probably should have seen something like this coming. But it's great to see. It's just great to see that they're actually promoting this like it's like a level B, maybe even a level A tier franchise for them. So hopefully we will see more in the future. Hopefully we see Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters, and hopefully we see Prime 4 sooner rather than later, at least some more details about it. But hey, if this remaster is anything to go by, I am so excited for Prime 4 now. So once again, let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you again for watching. Always appreciate the support. I live stream here 3 times a week, so keep up on the channel if you're interested in that. And hey, I will catch you all in the next video or live stream. Until next time, keep on gaming. Samus is here to stay. Life is good. Take care.